So you can see in what we've learnt for the week, there are going to be some primary qualities that we're going to need to develop to express our loving selves in the world. Now, we've already raised the issue of courage, haven't we? Having courage. And remember I spoke to you about courage not really being in my mind, not really being a feeling of like I'm just going to do it and I'm going to go ahead and do it, but rather just a deep love for God's love and a deep love for God's truth. And if you have this deep love for love and truth, then it automatically motivates you to be consistent in every place, in every circumstance, no matter what the outcome is. Because you know and have faith that the outcome is always going to be in harmony. If I'm engaging faith and truth and love, the outcome is always going to be good. Even if it's not instantly good, which is what we're used to experiencing here on earth. So we want instant satisfaction. We're living in a world that teaches this. We can see that when we oppose this, we're not probably going to get instant satisfaction. In fact, if anything, we're probably going to get some instant attack, right? But we're in for the long haul. We're not worried now just about our life here on earth. We're concerned about our everlasting existence and the effect that what we do now has upon that existence. So we're no longer focused just on this material body, which is just a tool for our soul to use while we're here. We're not focused on this safety of this body anymore. This person, the real person is not this body. It's my real self, the soul. And so I'm not pain, pleasure-centric anymore. I'm not just making decisions based on pain and pleasure. I'm making decisions because of the second thing I'd like to talk to you, and that is because I love God's love and truth. Right? I'm focused on loving that, honouring that, living in harmony with that, being harmonious with that. You can see that if you have that attitude, no matter what happens here on earth, no matter what opposition you encounter attempting to grow and be your loving self, you will not give up. You will not be able to be inspired by others to give up. Because you have this personal aspiration driving all of your actions and behaviour. Your personal desire driving things. Barbara, you'd like to ask? Yeah.
And the concepts that has been reintroduced to us these last few days of this eternal life, making decisions based on that concept and not based on just our earthly life, really changes the way you think, actually.
Yeah.
And it definitely will change decisions that I make.
And you imagine when you really feel that you have an everlasting life.
Yeah, I don't feel that yet, but
no, you won't until you're at one with God. Once you're at one with God, you feel yourself to be immortal. You feel your own immortality.
It sounds a great concept, though, at this stage.
Yeah, it's wonderful because all fear, all terror, all fear disappears. Not a single motivation that you have has any terror or fear associated with it. You imagine that. You're no longer trying to become your loving self by working through issues and so forth and taking notice of what's going on. You don't have to anymore. You automatically are your loving self, and you're now also consciously aware of your own immortality. So you imagine walking through the world being aware of your own immortality. Do you think you'd be worried anymore about what someone thinks of you or how they might react to what you say? Or of course not. Of course not.
And just coming down to basic day-to-day decisions about, what I do and what I think and how I treat other people or what even I eat.
Yeah. No decision would be made out of harmony with love.
No.
Not a single one. And it would be automatic.
Right.
I don't have to think about it. I'm automatically just loving myself, loving others, loving God, loving the environment around me automatically by what I do. Wouldn't that be so much easier than just trying to be loving?
It sounds easier,
It is
and it sounds, a desirous place to get to.
Yeah, it's wonderful. That's why celestial spirits have so much bliss, because they're not worried about this and worried about that and worried about how to do this and worried about how to do that, everything. They're still learning, still gathering in knowledge and information, because they still haven't perfected knowledge and information. That's an infinite thing. But they're perfectly loving in harmony with God's love, with no fear at all. Yeah, wonderful. So I suppose that brings me to the next point I'd like to make, and that is to make loving plans and take loving action. Take action about those plans. I see many of you making the mistake of waiting until you're perfect before you do something, or attempting to wait till you're perfect till you do something, or only doing things that you're really confident that you're going to succeed in doing. Have you noticed that? You do those things, but things that you got no idea about, you don't even touch them. There's a whole heap of things that you could be doing that would be taking action to share God's truth with others, just not in an invasive manner, but in just a sharing manner, like things you can do on the internet and things you can do just with blogs and other things that would share God's truth in a very loving manner, that very few of us are taking action about because we think we keep using the word, we're not ready yet. Not ready yet. What I'm suggesting to you is once some of God's love really settles in your heart, it's like you sort of go, I'm not ready, but so what? You start to engage action whether you feel like you're ready or not. In fact, you realise that engaging the action will help you get more ready later, just by engaging the action, right? And this is what I see many of you just sitting back, wary, not yet engaging action to share truth with others, not yet doing anything personally in your own life to share truth with others aside from browbeating others with it, like forcing it down their throat. I see many of you trying to do that. That doesn't work very well, right? Some of you tried that, not got good results from that. That doesn't work. That's not how I've shared truth with you. You came along through your own decision to listen to divine truth. No one forced you to. No one pressured you to. You do it through your own choice. That's how you need to share truth with others, the same way. Let them make choices. So you don't advertise and browbeat and market. Maybe I need to differentiate between marketing and advertising. You probably would advertise in a sense of this is available to you, but you wouldn't market it. Would you throw it down their throat? If you do this, you get this, and there's more. In a way, you wouldn't do all of that, would you? You just wouldn't do that with people. You wouldn't do that with your partner, with your friends, or anybody. You'd let them make choices and decisions. And many of them, if you receive some God's love, many of them will start noticing that you're different. Once they notice you're different, then they'll ask questions if they like it. And if they don't like it, then I'd suggest that maybe you haven't received as much love as what you suggest. Because most people do like it in the end. It's when they hit their facade, that's when people have the meltdown generally, isn't it? And we talked about that. So make some loving plans, take some action. There's so many good things that can be accomplished in the world, but it requires people who no longer sit in a state of inaction, waiting for someone else to do it, or waiting for someone else to do it with them, or waiting until they have enough money to do it, or waiting until they have the circumstances to do it. When you're truly passionate about something, you create those things. You use all of your potential resources doing those things. And then that sort of brings us to helping others, like how do you help others? by being an example of growth. You know, that's how you help others. This is a part of you expressing your loving self in the world. So stop, like in the first century I said frequently, stop hiding yourself under a basket. You know? Allow yourself to be yourself in the world in which we live. And whenever you notice the feedback telling you, oh, that's unloving, then change that. And when you notice the feedback telling you that's loving, then hold on to that faithfully. Let your faith build as a result of that, so that you can become a person who's expressing their loving self in the world. Now, if you do those things, you won't be easily influenced by people who are negative and by people who are pessimistic, by people who attack you, because you're loving yourself now, and a person who loves themselves doesn't listen to that anymore. And a person who loves themselves who is their loving self, doesn't do that to others. So instead of trying to pull down others and say, oh, you know, you're trying to build them up, you're trying to help them grow, instead of trying to attack them. But that sometimes means you're drawing the line in the sand. You go, no, I'm not stepping over that line. You want me to feed an addiction, I can't feed the addiction. And for that person, it's going to feel like, oh, you don't care about me anymore. And you're going to be okay with that, because you're allowing them to make their free will choice. You're allowing them to make their own choices and decisions. Just like God has done that with you. He's so good, isn't he? So good. He's so good. Just a beautiful example of someone that that is loving. Because what he does is exactly what we need to do. He's not in your face, is he? Not browbeating you, judging you, punishing you. He's got all the this immense power, unlimited source of power, and yet, you know, it doesn't zap you every time. You imagine every time that you sinned, you get a shock, you know. So, like the Pavlov's dog we've mentioned in the first, you know. Most people say, well, that's what he would really like from God, so that way I know what's going on. But that's not the way, that's not love, you know. Love doesn't cause a person harm in order to modify their behaviour. Love offers a carrot rather than keeping on using a stick. Seth, you'd like to...
Jesus, I was just thinking lately that if I engage the tools that which is what you're teaching us,
yep,
then that's likely to bring up all my terror. And that's, so while experiencing the global terror is the most economical way to do it,
it'll all come up.
Guaranteed way to get it to come up. Guaranteed,
yes.
Is to do those
4 things.
Terrifying things, whatever is the most terrifying.
Yeah.
For me.
So you can see the tools have a lot of roles, don't they, in your life, really? Faith, truth, action, emotion have this role of actually bringing you through the whole process, including this process. And yet, and I find it fascinating that even after all that is gone, there's still the 4 tools that you're going to use to continue development after that. Faith, truth, action and emotion. It's so great, isn't it? It means that you don't have to learn a bit for this phase, and then when that phase finishes, you have to learn a whole new thing after that. It's not like that. What I like about God and the way God has designed God's system is that you learn some very basic tools, and they carry you through for the rest of your existence. So you don't have to relearn them. You're just learning more about them, but you don't have to relearn them. We don't have to throw away old things and get new things. It's not like changing technology or anything like that. It's just the technology of the soul doesn't change. It's everlasting, yeah. It's great, eh? Great idea.
It's like it would be the first time there's a real reward for learning.
Yeah, that's right. And it's great that God even offers us these rewards for learning, as if there's not reward enough for being able to have a life, choosing to do what you want, enjoying loving relationships. There's all these other rewards, but just even having the reward that every time you learn a new thing, you now have greater power, you have greater ability to be yourself and share yourself with the world, but you also have a greater abilities, plural, like in the sense of what you can choose to do, the power that you have in your soul. So it's just it's a wonderful system, and honestly, if you think about it, a clever system would have been divinely created, wouldn't it? Like if there is a God, then whatever system God's created must be pretty clever. Given the fact that he can design our body, which is a pretty amazing tool, then surely it indicates that God must be a pretty clever God. Yeah, and when you examine the truth about the laws, the more and more you examine, the more amazing you think everything is. It's just incredibly amazing.
Thank you.
So what we'd like to do is encourage you. So for many of you, the next step is accepting that facade of yours, isn't it? You know, I'd love to see in a year's time, even if it takes a year or a couple of years, the next time I see you, or even if it's a couple of times further that I see you, that you've actually deconstructed a large part of that facade. And I can get to experience the joy of meeting my real brother or sister. Instead of this person that you think I want you to be, or you think their daddy wanted you to be and you think I'm your daddy or whatever. You know, that's what I'd love to see. So, you know, even if you make that one improvement in your life in the next year, that's going to be a major accomplishment. For many of you, it might take years. It might take 3, 4, 5 years to do that, accept your facade. Mostly. Because there'll be areas where you don't accept your facade, but at least mostly you have. You know, it might take you quite a number of years, and that's okay. All of us has got a different size facade. We all were treated differently. The key is whether you want to do it. The key is whether you're going to do it each day. The key is what kind of actions you're going to take. To me, it's a waste of your life if you're not going to do it. Just a waste. Life can go on and on and on and on the same way as it's currently going on. And after you pass, go on and on and on and on the same way still, if you're not careful. So, you know, choose to do it. Choose to go through the acceptance of it. When you accept it, it's going to be so uncomfortable that you go, I just want to get rid of this now. I want to do something about this now. And so you enter the deconstruction phase of your facade. You start wanting to feel some of this terror and feeling this pain that's in and so forth. That's what I'd like to encourage you to do. Take action to do that. Take steps to do that. Don't let yourself off the hook for not doing it. You know? Some of you won't decide to do that in a year or two's time. When it comes to us presenting more information, you're going to struggle understanding it, to be honest. And the reason why is because, you know, the understanding of each new bit of information depends upon receiving some of God's love into the soul so that you can understand. So this is why many of you have struggled with a lot of what we've shared in the past, because not at the stage where you can understand it at the soul level. You think you get it, but your life still, if you analyse those desires, you see the desires are still automatic towards the facade, automatic towards the addictions. That's an indication you haven't got it yet. All right? So be honest about that. It's okay. The automatic feelings tell me, don't they, where I'm at. Measure the automatic feelings. Allow yourself to find out what drives them. So the reason why we've covered this developing my loving self with you is because we felt after the first group, which is developing my will to love, this was we needed to get some kind of focus on self-awareness. And hopefully the groups help you do that. Helped you become a bit more self-aware. And also helped you become self-aware without attacking yourself, or without pitying yourself, or without abusing yourself. Does that make sense? Just without judgment. It's helped you become self-aware without that. And there's not enough that can be said about the beauty of being self-aware, because it's only you that can drive your progression. Only you can do it. No one else can do it for you. And if anybody did try to do it for you, they'd already be out of harmony with love. So they're not even allowed to do it for you. Right? So this is why it's so important to allow yourself to work out what is it you want, what are you going to do, what choices and decisions you're going to make, how are you going to use your will. You're going to use your will like we have had written on the board for the entire week, or you're going to use your will completely the opposite to that in each step. What are you going to do? Deconstructing. You're going to deconstruct what has been created by others and yourself. You're going to deconstruct it, or you're going to leave it there. Work around it like you've been doing. You know? So that's what I'd like to encourage you to do. Good luck with that. You got tools, you got plenty of tools, you know what tools to do, so you can see that probably there's not that much luck involved. It's probably more to do with how much desire there is, isn't it? The aspiration to have the desire. Yeah. All right.